What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit about Shane Steichen, right? We talked yesterday about Anthony Richardson and are you in, are you out? We're going to have kind of the same conversation about Shane Steichen. A lot of people talking about, hey, coming up this offseason, just start over with everything, right? New GM, new coaches, potentially new quarterback. We talked about that yesterday. If you didn't see that Anthony Richardson video, make sure after this one's done, go check that one out and let me know what your thoughts are on that one as well. Of course, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this conversation as well as we talk about Shane Steichen and just kind of look through the situation that he was put into, looking at what he's been able to do with the situation that he has over these first 2 years. And obviously coming in year one, there was a lot of hype behind him, right? Somebody that was with Justin Herbert and made Justin Herbert look really good. And then somebody that was with Jalen Hurts and his best year as a passer, even though he's a running quarterback, his overall best year of his career, Jalen Hurts, was with Shane Steichen. So when we get Shane Steichen and then we end up drafting Anthony Richardson, there's so much hype around both of them and these two together and what he's going to be able to do with Anthony Richardson going forward and da. And I still believe that that's entirely possible, but we're at a point where because of the situation, he hasn't been able to be so hands-on with Anthony through these first 2 years, right? So obviously coming in, right, gets his hands on Anthony throughout the first off season, and then we get into the season, he starts getting hurt, and he's out by week 5. And of course, we have Gardner Minshew to fill in the spot and to fill in any of the games, right? Winning week 3 in Baltimore in overtime, a crazy game that ended up, just what a battle that was week 3 2023 Colts Ravens. But nonetheless, when you look at what ended up transpiring through the season, right, they go 9-8 through 2023, right? And when you look at it, we ended up the 10th highest scoring offense in the NFL at 23.3 points per game. Of course, the Achilles heel for us last year was defense, where we were 28th in scoring defense out of 32 teams at 24.4 games. So top 10 in scoring offense and still giving up more points than we were scoring. Just a recipe for disaster. And it ended up showing up in a lot of things. When you look at a lot of the stats, us against our opponents last year, a lot of them were very close, right? Our opponents, offensively having more yards, having more plays, like they were able to do that last year. But the stats overall for us last year, like we looked like a 9-8 football team, right? Like it shows when you look at the stats, like we're so average in that way last year. Again, yeah, we finished 9-8 last year. Gardner Minshew has a hand in that. The team kind of rallying around and kind of doing what they did last year, right? This Gus Bradley defense has a way of being trash at the beginning and then in different ways getting better throughout the year. And there'll be games like this past Sunday, right, where they play good all game, but there's a quarter where, hey, we just can't stop anybody. They give up 21 points in a single quarter, and it makes everything look bad. But at the end of the day, the defense has been performing well, getting better as the year goes on. But even with that, when you look at some of the rankings, obviously defense not anywhere near good enough. The people that we're playing against have run more than 100 more plays than us combined, and they have a greater yards per play. Like the discrepancy between us and our opponents this year is crazy, which is crazy. Like because of who we play at the end of the season, we have a chance to finish 9-8. There's no reason that should be the case when you look at our numbers compared to the numbers of the people we're playing against, right? Teams, their average field position 32.2 yards, where ours is 28.5. Average time on every drive, including right 3 and outs and all those mixed into it. Us, we're at 222, opponents 257, which with the amount of drives that happen throughout a season, pretty big discrepancy there. And maybe the biggest stat is points per drive. When you think about teams that win, points per drive matters, and the points per drive for our opponents this season is 2, where for us it is 1.74. And when you think about last year and think about that same comparison, right? Last year was 2.01 for our opponents, 1.83. So essentially the same. And again, we have a good chance here to finish 9-8, right? Same record as last year. And if we drop one, right, we managed to drop one of these 3 games, 8-9, worse than last year with the combination of Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson. So there are people that are going to come at Shane Steichen's neck, and rightfully so. This team hasn't gone anywhere. But when you think about it, right, you go and look at our free agency last year and what we did, right? Everybody here knows how Chris Ballard is. Well, he went and got Joe Flacco to back up Anthony Richardson just in case anything went bad. And unfortunately, Joe Flacco, and it seems like the last of his good football, was played in Cleveland last season because he came in and was not able to get the job done for us. The only outside free agent other than Raekwon Davis, Michael Pittman Jr., 3 years, $70 million, and has had a back injury that he's played through this year, but also really just a lot of drops from Pitt this year. Like, not even going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Pitt just hasn't been good enough this year. The ball's hit him plenty of times, plenty of opportunity for him to make plays, and he hasn't been able to do it. So we'll see what the future holds for Pitt. But he signed a contract last year. Zaire Franklin signed a contract. Kenny Moore, Julian Blackman. Of course, Raekwon Davis signs a 2-year, $14 million deal. And then Grover Stewart, Tyquan Lewis, guys that have been on the roster are guys that we signed back. So Shane Steichen is working off the same offensive and defensive system with almost exactly, between starters and depth, almost exactly the same offense and defensive personnel. Obviously, there were some rookies that got mixed in, specifically on the offensive line. And, of course, there on the defensive line with Latu, you have Samuel Womack on the defense. So there's some differences, but, of course, for the most part, largely the same. And obviously Anthony Richardson has played a part in that. His struggles held us back earlier in the year. There's no doubt about that. And even his struggles held us back a little in the Denver game. There were other things that happened in that Denver game, other opportunities lost. Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball in front of the goal line, and that being the snowball effect that it had on the team. And so this Colts team and what we're seeing, like, I don't want to put it all on Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen going 9-8 with the team that he had last year with Gardner Minshew being the quarterback was incredible. With everything that was happening, Jonathan, of course, Shane Steichen gets hired. We got to figure out who the quarterback's going to be. Jonathan Taylor, he goes through the whole situation, right? Doesn't want to be here, ends up signing back here, but still not able to play until week 5. But Zach Moss was popping off. Like, what we were able to do with the roster last year that he had, going 9-8 was incredible. That's why we were all so high on him. And now he's trying to take the same roster with mostly the same players, again, the same system offensively and defensively and everything that's happened on both sides of the ball, and he's trying to at least replicate it and trying to get his young quarterback to get better. He held him accountable earlier in the year and made him sit back, and now Anthony, from a preparation standpoint, has got it. It's really just on the field, what he's got to work on to become a better quarterback. That's what we got to worry about with Anthony. And I think Steichen can help him get there. And I think they can bring people around Anthony that can help him get there in the offseason and really hone in on those things. And I think the team really believes in Anthony. That's the thing, is that the team and the players love Anthony. They love Shane Steichen, and I think they were always a package deal. Same offseason they come in. It was always expected, okay, now we're going to go get a new coach. Now we're going to go get a new quarterback. And there are a lot of things that need to be changed, right? You think about all the players that we have are from the Frank Reich era. So the players that are from the Frank Reich era they were coming into the league operating a certain way. So they only know how to operate a certain way as pros. So it's deeper than Shane Steichen. It's what's happening isn't Shane Steichen's fault. This roster is just the same year after year after year. And Chris Ballard continues to construct this roster as if we're a team that can't lose all our guys because we keep winning Super Bowls and we're trying to continue winning Super Bowls. And we're just not, we're not that team. We're not the Chiefs. So the way the roster continues to be built year after year, for a long time, I defended it because I'm somebody who is like, Chris Ballard, he's just trying to win. Andrew Luck retired. Ever since then, he just tried to win. And I'll always give him that. All he ever tried to do was continue to win, and it just hasn't worked out, right? It just, for whatever reason, just year after year, all the different quarterbacks, all the different talent that you've brought in, and it just hasn't worked out. And so at some point, the philosophy has to change. And again, that's a Chris Ballard conversation. We've had the Chris Ballard conversations, and of course that's going to continue to be an ongoing conversation. That's hot button topic here in Colts Nation. A lot of people talking about Chris Ballard and the things that he's done right, the things that he could have done better. The fact that he needs to go. There are people that still think he needs to stick around, and so there's just a lot going on in Colts Nation. But the same conversations being had about Shane Steichen, and my opinion, man, my opinion, as you can kind of tell by this conversation, and if you're still sticking around to this point in the video, just know I think Steichen is a guy for the future. I think he's a young coach. Period. Young coach, and definitely a young head coach, right? And we should have known coming in, no matter how good he is at calling an offense, no matter how much these guys rally around him, as a coach and as a head coach, the head guy, there's just adjustments that have to be made when you're a head coach at the biggest level, head coach in the NFL. And so I think over his first 2 years, like I think you could say sophomore slump for Shane Steichen would be in effect. I think Richardson still kind of counts as a rookie, and I think actually next year I think we'll see AR start to ascend a little bit as he gets healthy into the offseason and able to get some work in. But I just think Shane Steichen's still a really good coach. I think we've seen that he can be a good play caller, and I think there's a lot that he can learn from himself as he goes in and just stays accountable. Now, I think a lot of things with Shane Steichen are going to change throughout this offseason depending on what he does with his staff, specifically with that defensive coordinator. What's going to happen there, right? There's different examples through the season where the defense just dominates in different portions of game. And even in this game against the Broncos scored 21 points. Well, one of those was with the offense on the field, and one of those was with us giving up a massive punt return. Right, that got them into like the 4-yard line or something like that. So, really 14 points on the board, not even the defense's fault from that last game. So overall, defense has been playing well. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Gus. So there's quite the conversation to be had there. So I think at some point we'll probably have that conversation too. We'll continue this video series probably and keep talking about it. Chris Ballard's going to be involved in that. There are also going to be other updates. Okay, today, big day, Wednesday, injury day. We're going to have injury video here in a little while. I'm going to wait for injury report to come out for both teams, and then I'll get that video to you guys as soon as I possibly can. I do know that Juju Brent was designated to return. His practice window is open. So, again, you make it to this part of the video, you now have a little bit of news that the other people, the other parts of Colt Syndicate, they're not going to get this news until they see the video later. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you get notified when the updates come out. Any other content that we have, we're going to be live for the game on Sunday, of course. Make sure you get notified for it. And of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.